brutally honest here. So you have players who sit there and through creativity and through wonder and trickery have organized armies, fixed things. They have mass-produced weapons of war. They have done everything. They have cracked the world. And yet, supposedly, it's time to retire. And yet, so nobody else in the world has paid any attention to the party's money-making schemes. They have not paid any attention at all to their ability to make items. They have not paid attention to how they've created pocket dimensions. Nobody sits there, and the entire world just sits there, and you're playing the grandchildren, these grand and wonderful heroes, and all you're doing is, well, I guess we're back down to clod farming, thump, thump, and the world is perpetually locked forever in medieval bullshittery for all time. Yet in a more logical world, that player who created his own custom crossbow that fires faster, hits harder, does better. Why the fuck is that weapon not being copied by every military on the planet? That mage who's built an academy and he's created war mages and he's training 1,000 people to be war mages. Why is not every other nation investing their economic output to create state-funded military academies to create war wizards who are deployed in legitimately like fire teams and formations who teleport in and then lay waste to continents? But because, well, players have to figure out how to be special. Everybody else has to sit there, again, like I said earlier, just dig shit turds out of their assholes and dig clods and continue to play medieval worthless time. Yet no one cares about the idea of the one-player character.
Wait. I got to ask, buddy.
Yeah.
The grandkids of some massive heroes.
Yeah.
Massive big dick energy, sword swinging heroes, magic coming out the pores, right?
Yes, because that's what player characters are.
Okay, and they're the grandkids of these people, so they weren't like brought up with like silver spoons and fed all the right nutrients
because
and have an extra like point of strength or constitution.
Now, I'll get to that, because if you've seen how player characters, if they're playing in a dynastic campaign where they have figured out this is going to be a campaign where I'm going to play my grandchildren, they are going to most likely figure out how to become immortal through trickery, bribery, or breaking reality, or murdering 1,000 children a year so that way they can maintain their immortality. They're going to be there.
I'm going to save that part. I got to come back to that, but go ahead. Keep going.
Okay. But the thing is, you're going to engage in immense, like, you're going to find the best breeding partner, the best stock. You're going to create your children, and you're going to train your children to be amazing. And then you're going to make sure that those children are married to the best stock humanly possible, so that way you continue your dynasty onward time. So therefore, when it comes time to, the good players do that. The incompetent players who have no idea what they're playing, hey guys, play your descendants, and then you have Twiddly D, the cell phone player, goes, oh, I'm just going to play another character. Meanwhile, you have the one character who goes, I have engaged in a eugenics program that would make Khan proud, and puts down the character who is the inheritor. Is like, who is this guy? This is Caesar Augustus. Congratulations, you're all gonna die horribly to this guy, and you just move forward. Yet most GMs are like, well, we're playing children, and the children of gods. The society has not evolved at all. None of the player reforms have ever changed anything. You don't see society move forward. There's no improvements in metallurgy, no improvements in knowledge. Even if you have a wizard whose entire goal is, I'm here to uncover the secrets of the lost mage empire. I'm going to rebuild the Library of Alexandria. You have a cleric who's out there going, I'm going to make Rome look pathetic. My Vatican City will literally be immensely amazing. And that's his goal. And he'll probably get there. You have another player who's going, I want to be Genghis Khan. And now you have these three people who are all cooperating. And you have another player who's going, I want to rule the seven seas. I want Rule Britannia playing in the background whenever I walk into a room. And yet, here we are, 60 years later, you're not dealing with like, a decaying empire, because most of these people are still probably alive, still running everything, and you're not playing the aristocrats. Well, we're not playing those countries. You're just playing people who are other parts of the empire, who are being ruled over by gods. And you're sitting here going, well, I guess I'm a standard character who is getting out here in my life with my 100 gold pieces of equipment and basic troops, and I'm supposed to still believe we're all fighting goblins and rats in a basement, and we're all and our wizard does not have access to the Imperial Mage Academy because it exists. But don't worry, we're all mediocre, incompetent losers, that we have not advanced technology at all. Our generational campaign has no sign of actually having generational progress. Time has not actually moved forward 60 years. You're not looking at anything having improved. Why? Because every GM is like, we are continually stuck forever in traditional fantasy bullshit. And that is what we're always trapped in every time we play a general campaign. You will never see most GMs, sorry, honestly never, most GMs will never transition their campaigns from dirt-eating badly perceived dark ages written by some faggot in the 70s. And you will never see that transition from dark age bullshittery to age of reason. You will never see that point where the Renaissance begins. You will never see that point where prosperity drives your culture into a golden age. You will never see the age of exploration begin. You will never see the age, you will never see a game make that transition from age of reason, age of exploration. You will never see no GM will go, oh shit, gunpowder. Oh fuck, this is going to change everything. Oh fuck, improved metallurgy. Shit, people who understand alchemy and technology. Oh crap, this might disrupt my ability to have elves and wizards and dwarves who are all ice in their own alien environment, and elves who are fucking in trees over here. And all the humans are all this monoculture of idiot drooling morons who have various flavors of, are they slightly different shade of human? But they all speak common and everyone's boring. But don't worry, this is your vibrant, grand race that is so flexible, but they're all the same fucking race. Go fuck yourselves. But don't worry, you'll never see that the transition of your cultures. Why? Because this might break the idea that D&D's economy is fucking dumb. Role-playing's economy is fucking dumb. You'll never have this age. Because most GMs don't understand how history fucking works. Because this might disrupt their Tolkien fucking experience. Hell, they haven't read Tolkien. They can't even tell how ages go forward. They don't have an idea of how the ages could go backwards. They don't have any kind of progression. So you get through your generation campaign. Are you going to move forward? And now it's like, oh God, no, the Industrial Revolution is scary. I don't know how to handle early Industrial Revolution. I don't know how to handle late Industrial Revolution. I don't know how to handle the Age of Steam. I don't know how to handle any of this and still make my ability to play a game functional, because I need it to continue to be everyone walks through a horrible black forest. You walk out the village and everything eats you. And so, yeah, I don't think most GMs will never go, well, we're going to end our campaign and retire and then just go have a happy, fun time playing new characters. And because, thought of how a world works is just beyond how most people think.
So
now you hate generational campaigns.
Oh, I love that.
We have 9 minutes of you frothing in the mouth about how nothing has changed, although the world has been saved.
Yes.
50 years, 40 years have passed.
Yes.
And I want to know, your point on this is, why are we starting at the exact same tech level, the same social level? Why are we starting worse than our grandparents did, who saved the fucking world since then? Why was it not brought up in a good fucking Montessori school? Why didn't I have decent fucking, 7-course meals and, at least 6 hours of cardio a week. I want to
Yeah.
have some good strength training. And, my grandfather didn't have the upbringing I had. What I want to have an advantage that I should have, because people in the real world have an advantage. But you're starting us back at B2 again.
Yeah.
We're starting back. Oh, and there's only one village blacksmith, and he makes the same standard sword every time for 15 gold, right?
Yep.
All right. So how would you change it there, Kai?
Well, simple. First off, there should be better access to a better quality. Like, first off, you got to realize maybe you might have a bit more money running around. Maybe there might be a bit more selection floating around. Maybe you might actually realize that there are merchants, traders. You might get news from elsewhere out there. You have to accept that when you're coming in, you're not just starting basic idiots. Your players know the world. They should actually. Why are you starting them in unless you're starting them in the periphery village, who's on the edge of everything? And every once in a while, you got to worry about these guys who scream bar, 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 bar outside the walls. Congratulations, you're on the border of Germania. But it's like, but the thing is, maybe the idea is that your standard longsword is no longer that standard longsword. Maybe it's a little bit better weapon. Maybe maybe the preponderance of the last player characters who really like certain weapons, those are now the common standard weapon that's now available. You now like put effort, change, evolve your setting, and you got to be working on how putting effort to show that, well, when your mage goes out there and goes, hey, do we still have, can I find this thing? There should be there's a good chance that reward your players for having put in work. If you're going to end a campaign and make them jump eras, reward them by letting them see tangible results. Maybe your blacksmith, maybe it isn't just the one local blacksmith. Maybe there actually is. There's the central refinery that's, because that one player who's really good in crafting organized an entire guild. Maybe now that, things are actually brought in, there's guys who are now doing commissions, custom work. And now, sure, you can't afford it, but now you have access to it earlier, faster. It isn't quite so Mother May I garbage going on here. You need to actually, if you're going to jump time, show that jump in time. Allow for, why is that every road still dirt, some dirt, muddy road? Why haven't they all been paved? Why? Because you had that one player whose goal was, I want paved roads everywhere. I want all roads to go to Rome. And why isn't there something better? There should be some sign of it that you are in the reward for ending is tangible. You should see it, or at least know it exists.
This is why I always start my campaigns with the player's handbook. And if my players would actually finish a campaign, what they unlock in this campaign would probably carry over.
Yeah.
So you would have evolved things like the witch, things like that, summoner. And I think that's a good reflection on how the world changes. You still have these traditional schools you'd go to, but now you have these other places. Like when I was growing up, we didn't have MMA. We had karate, we had taekwondo. There was no kung fu in Central Illinois. I had to go to Springfield or to Peoria. Decatur didn't have that. Bloomington didn't have that. It wasn't until I had left that these became popular. Krav Maga, I didn't hear about that until I was at, where was that? St. Louis. I was frustrated. So you're right. Okay. But you have to make these options available, and they have to stay in place, or at least be reasonably accessible to where, if the players are in a certain geographical area, maybe they can level up in this new class that they otherwise would not be accessible to.
Right.
And so you are the son of your grandfather. You're the grandson of a famous hero By the way, there's about 12 people that you grew up with that were wanting to see you get big and strong. There's 3 people that you were told never to hang out with. One of them is Grima Wormtongue. One of them is a drunkard that has a lot of fun stories, and he hangs out at a bar. And the third one is an individual that he's surrounded by about 10 people, and they really don't want him to talk to new kids or to new people. Yeah. And so your 12 aides are the 12 family friends that you have in your manor, because that's where you would grow up. If you're the grandson of a famous hero, he's not going to let the family, he's not going to let his pull-out game live anywhere outside of the walls. They're going to be staying where he can maintain things and control things, and they're going to have more options than the typical peasantry of the land, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're going to start a game where you're the sons or the grandson of a huge hero, I think you would probably want to give the players a little more of an edge up. And you don't want to tell them that when you're advertising for the game. No. Standard game, roll your dice as they are. And then when they sit down, okay, your grandfather was a wizard, so he was a 17th level wizard in the guild, and he had this many accreditations, and you start with accessibility to these classes. They're all in arcane magic. Have fun.
And for players like that, but at that point, you can have the players who have, that the rebellious person who goes against type, or you're opening that fun lineage. Is always black sheep in the family. You can stay traditional or go rebel. It's fun because it's supposed to reward your players for doing this, but it's beyond just the players. You got to be able to show the effects upon the world, But the thing is, you got to be able to extrapolate out from where events ended, and then roll forward 30, 40 years, and then start explaining, okay, here's how the world's changed. Here's how things have improved. Here's where things have gotten, where people have gotten lazy, where overconfidence has allowed a new problems to grow up. And it's mostly about how to, because some players are just going to go, I really don't want to, my character wasn't interested in romance. I didn't really have, my character wouldn't have had children because, he's a warrior monk who decided to go live off on a mountaintop somewhere and, never had kids, but, so I'm going to make it a whole new character because, I want to do something different, because there's always that person who's out there who's not interested in playing the Crusader Kings Dynasty system. But the thing is, so it really isn't the players, it's how the world that you're creating has to change from the baseline. Because it just has to be something more that you're willing to do. But because once you go generational, once one campaign ends and moves on to the next campaign, what do you do different? What alters? What changes? And
first off, the laws and the cities and the initial area where the children or the heroes were before, those areas are going to blossom economically.
Oh yeah.
That should turn into at least a Morton or a Washington-like town instead of being like Deer Creek. Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna say that. So we have a town that went from 1,000 people, but because Tommy became a town hero and he had gold pieces coming out of his asshole every other week because he'd go siege a new goblin citadel, or he'd go kill some bugbear raiders, or maybe he rescued an orphanage from an evil tyrant with a mind sword. Nobody got that joke. Okay, so
No, you made a comment about asking out somebody's gold and made me think of somebody that me and somebody else have heard stories about with pennies. So I just kind of got stuck there for a second.
Well, I am a millionaire.
Oh, God.
I just shit him out a copper at a time.
Yeah. No. That's a story for a different broadcast.
Okay, so The thing is that your characters are going to be you're gonna have a better upbringing than everybody else. First off, so you're going to be dealing with envy. If you're not homeschooled, your vulnerability at school when you're growing up is going to become a thing, and your parents will want to move you to a private school or an academy or institution.
Yeah, and this is all.
I mean, the town has a school.
You funded it,
or you were sent off.
Or all the times you went and got cure light wounds. I'm sorry, Kai.
Or you got sent off to that nice school, and it's camp, like just like on Dragonlance. Welcome to the first adventure. You're all back together from wherever you were, locally schooled, homeschooled, raised by tutors, went off to the best academy off somewhere distant, but you have to get the party together anyway for the new game. But yeah, like I guess for me it's just simply, I'm sorry, I'll be quiet now.
No, go ahead. I need you to talk because you've had this deep dive thing going on for over a month, and we've just kind of piddled around a topic. We get our big toe into it. We're good. We 5E'd it. We're good. We've beat the monster. And you're like, no, I want to go on a deep dive. Okay.
But okay, now
we're on a deep dive. Talk.
Now, the thing here is that okay, with the whole 1,000 years of Dark Ages, the thing is that with where everything is, players tend to radicalize and change a region. They tend to be massive stabilizing. Maybe this is me coming from a slightly skewed perspective where I am used to players who build universities, academies. They create centers of learning. They stretch out and create safe trade zones. They are doing what is the nascent formation of what always creates the golden ages of regions. It's like when they are following the playbooks of Florence, Milan, and Venice, when they are looking at the caliphates and going, how the golden ages of the caliphates, when they're like, these are centers of learning and advancement. They are creating the environment that would in any other world be where it draws everyone to them. They are building palaces. They are building merchant fleets, shipyards, connections, ports. They are looking at, like, while they're fighting off the enemy because the effects that roads, guards, military patrols, support, everything leads to, like, they're building a base of power that isn't just a castle on a hill. They're building the economy that supports it, the educated class, the crafters that support the educated class. They're building good medical conditions for the peasantry who are able to come in and get cheap, ultra cheap. Why? Because the party is financing the church and the clerics who are now going out because that's part of their daily job and payroll to go out and heal the sick. Suddenly you're dealing with a region that is the hotbed of, this isn't the Dark Age anymore. You're looking at, this is where the Renaissance will start in your world, in your campaign, and this is where the campaigns usually end, when they go, well, I think we're at the end of the storyline, is when they're either at Venice, or where they've built Venice, or they're on the way to establishing Venice and the zone around it. When they start looking at the idea that what does the party rule over? The Po River Valley. And going, that's a pretty good area. And then you realize, wait, that's where the entirety of Europe changes. Where the history changes for a continent in this one region. And so we fast forward 40 years. You're looking at the 40 years, 100 years. Say we're going for a big generation, like you want your humans to have passed away, and now you want to say your human characters have died, your elves are still lingering around, and even your dwarves are going, I'm getting kind of old. So that way you have a new, fresh generation. You do a sort of TNG type thing. And, well, have you thought about the ramifications of what you've done a century in advance? How are things rolling forward? How does magic, or how does the certain choices you made continue to echo forward in time? Like what did you do? Like what did you leave behind that's now echoing forward? That's more than just simply a cool sword for someone to find, or a cool tomb for the party to loot, for the new party to loot. Which that might be a possibility, because you might have players who are despotic and
don't click on that. She's going away. Please, Chad. Thank you.
So it really just is that point for me of going. I kind of want to see more people think about how stories improve, how worlds change as you. Whenever a GM goes, I'm going to time jump. Are you just going to time jump and then have the world stay in stasis, or are you time jumping and then changing the entire same world, same campaign setting, but now you're no longer in Italy. You're now not Italy, wherever the parties created their, and you're now somewhere on the Danish coastline and having it's cold and miserable, and you're far away from the light of the parties, of previous wonders, and building a whole new thing there. Why? Because you want to continue to stay in that basic stasis point that is what everyone wants, or what everyone traditionally thinks of when you throw a player's handbook at them and go, make a character. But then again, the player's handbook has equipment that ranges from the Roman Empire to the late Renaissance period. And so you're really going, I could build a character who's got, split mail from the Roman Empire next to a guy who's wearing full plate from early Age of Reason going on here, guys. We've got weapons that are variety of eras, and they're all existent. Everyone's viable. Everything's a good choice. So you're not trying to say, and then at a certain point you go, well, shouldn't there be better things? Shouldn't there be improvements? No. Player's handbook is what we're going to play as. There's been no changes. Nothing ever improves. Nothing gets better. Nothing. The only thing that gets better is if some grand wizard comes down from a mountain and blesses an item, and now it's magical.
That's kind of funny. I want to just interject here. Shadzar's like, what is a topic that we're talking about? And Shadzar, say that you've just played a 2-year-long game of your favorite system, and at the end of it, when real change comes about economically because your players have crafted, they've bought thousands of gold pieces worth of items, they have funded the guilds nearby, they've impacted the local economy, they have provided a stabilizing factor within the hometown they're at. When they go out, everybody recognizes the hero and his wife or maiden. There's nobles that are nearby that want to kind of breed their kids with the hero's kids. That's kind of the thing that happens. And so Kai's here talking about wanting to, after the campaign ends, what changes. And so he started game 40 or 60 or 100 years later. And yeah, Mr. Max Boyven, the problem is that Kai started ranting. I pressed record or go live a little bit too slow. And he said, go ahead, record me. I'm like, cool. And I smashed the fucking live button. And that's how we started. Because I was just trying to warm up everybody. Like, hey, how's everybody doing? And we're about 2 minutes into it. And here comes Kai with a rant. Oh, shit. Let me start. We were broadcasting.
After that 9 minutes of gold.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
Completely love the idea, or the idea that you're having with this, that if you can get a group of people to sit down for multiple different campaigns, but be generational games, that is a great idea. I love that idea. I've had the opportunity to play in a game with a DM that did it once, and that is an investment on the DM and the players. I know I'm gonna catch a little bit of hell from you, Kai, but I run mainly on modules just because I don't really have the time or the imagination to create my own world or story unless I'm backpacking off of somebody else's.
Drink. He said story.
Oh, I need alcohol.
I'm going to need a lot more of this then.
But I'm at the middle part, almost middle, not even middle part. I'm at a part of Rise of the Rune Lord, and I got players. Wayne's like, so after this campaign, what are characters doing next? Well, we can do Return of the Rune Lords, and I could just find a way to make your character's grandchildren in that one. That sounds like a great idea, but I'm taking 2 modules that were not meant for the system, running it, jamming it together, and hopefully making something out of it.
When it comes to generational games, the game master has to take notes if they plan on running a generational game. You can't just wing a generational game. Kai, you brought up a lot of really good points about generational games and the problems they're in. Being that technology will have changed, not necessarily in 20 years, potentially in 40, definitely in 100. And those are all things that the storyteller, the game master, dungeon master, they have to be aware of that, and they have to be willing to take the notes from the first campaign and start writing a lot of that stuff into the next campaign. I've run multiple games in the same game world at different points in time. Actually, I'm currently writing and dreaming up the Bronze Age of my game world. And the things that happen in the Bronze Age game are going to carry forward into the next stage. Things that the players do will have a massive effect on the rest of the world. And that's something that game masters have to be aware of. You don't have to necessarily study, history and be a professor of social sciences to understand this. When a player goes, hey, I made this auto-loading or auto-feeding, repeating longbow. See, what was it? The Slingshot Channel's the Legolas longbow. But it's like, let's say they did come up with this contraption that attaches to a bow, and they can just sit there and rapid fire 5, 6, 7 arrows in no time at all. That would be a massive change for whatever country they live in and their community. And their little area would become a center for weapons of war at that point, which would draw in a lot of money. Sure. Does that mean that their grandkids going to have the same life experience or training that their grandfather had? Not necessarily, because they'll have had a better life, meaning they might have had a little more comfortable of a life. So they may not have that strength training, that dex training. They might have had a better education. They might be ultra intelligent or ultra wise.
Right.
So those are all things that the GM has to take notes for, and it would be beneficial if players took notes. Almost none of them do. I'm one of those weirdos that takes copious amounts of notes about what I'm doing and about what's happening around me, generally speaking. So I can always refer back to it in the past or hand it over to the GM and say, hey, here's your session or here's your game notes. And then they can, carry forward. But if everyone at the table, hypothetically, is taking notes, the GM should be able to say, hey, do you guys remember what happened like 3 months ago? If everyone's taking notes, they can all pull out their notebooks and cross-reference what happened 3 months ago. And then the GM at the very end of the campaign is like, hey guys, you've reached the end of the game, or the end of what I have, thought up and theorized for where this game's going to go. Your characters are going to retire. Give me three lines as to what you want your character to do in retirement, or more, whatever. The GM should note those things down and say, okay, for the next campaign, I want to set it X number of years into the future. Think about characters you want to play in this new future. And given your character's retirements, I'm going to now, come up with a new game and direction for said game to go in with your new characters, but also keeping in mind that your current or your retired characters have made a huge impact upon the world because, well, they were the big damn heroes.
They were.
So I mean, it really comes down to great note taking.
I want to hit something that 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 Max just brought up in chat, and I know it's a cliche. The cliche comment about how tech doesn't improve. I would actually argue that if technology and Magic are not improving in game, your players aren't creative enough, because there's always players who are trying to test the limits, create variants, like find a new application for a spell that's never been done. The problem is that too many people go into any game that has a pre-canned magical system and assume Magic only operates in these ways, because you're living in a dark age where these are just the fragments, the dogmatic fragments that have flowed down through time, and these are the last bits that you collected. And if you don't spread the magical unguent oils upon the machine and say the activation phrase before you turn the key, it never turns on. If I, the wizard, even though some point in the distant past they had figured out that no, actually you don't really need to actually go through wiggly wobbly throw bat shit at somebody and an explosion happens, because they understood Magic better in the past. But your players go, wait, so how can I make telekinesis better? How can I improve telekinesis? And then you have players who don't have Magic who look at the exact same problem and go, how can I kill a wizard better? How can I defend against everyone trying to kill me better? Since everyone knows wizard teleports in, casts fireball, gunpowder bad, how do I protect against that? The wizard can teleport, but how can I do something that can be better? The wizard can fly, how can I fix that? The cleric can cast heal, but he's not around all the time. You have players who ask a lot of these questions, try to find solutions. You have people who go, well, can my alchemical potions and that's, heal plus alchemy is the foundations to what would be considered modern medicine. You understand that physics, alchemy and Magic could be the foundations to what could be physics. You have the sciences that are there, and dogmatic belief, it doesn't actually advance, but players never are dogmatic. They don't just follow what the book tells you, because the book just says these are the optimal combat solutions. This is how you use this one spell to have one certain effect. But the wizard goes, wait, could I refocus? And suddenly they are creating their own spells. They're modifying, they're pushing the limits, and you're trying to work with them. In other game engines, you have much more dynamic magical systems, much more, the engines go in different directions. You're able to do more interesting things. But when we come back to the game to the game engines that most people go back to, you're stuck with nobody ever improves. So you don't have that player who goes, wait, so what if I do use telekinesis as, integrate telekinesis into a crossbow, and suddenly I now have a multi-stage weapon. And you have players who are bypassing this, but yet, like I said, these are all part of what I said early on with the whole idea that players rape the system, rape reality through a combination of magic, ingenuity, and technology to create abominations that allow them to beat up shit, because 5 guys can save the world through various means of trickery, and yet when they move on into existence, nobody took notes. Why didn't anyone take notes? Why didn't the rest, if your players didn't take notes, why didn't the rest of the world take notes? Because obviously, if this one king up in Sweden managed to somehow revolutionize infantry warfare, why doesn't anyone else do that? Why hasn't over the course of a half a century, the notes of tactics filtered out into the rest of the world yet? Why haven't elite guards started to take notes and change their elite patrol patterns? How they're training their troops to be better. How is the world not improving? But yet you're supposed to just assume the world stopped around the heroes, and that's it. No improvements will ever occur in this period. No technology improves, no science improves, no magic improves. Nothing happens. You are locked eternally into stasis, and it sucks.
All right, I'm going to throw something in here.
Okay.
Most of your games have gold pieces, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so you exchange your currency. Your fungibility is with a commonly used piece, and you have the attention of your local magistrate probably whenever you're doing things in a constructive sense.
Yes.
You probably have his favor, getting rid of the bandits, killing off goblins, helping us out at V2. So why wouldn't an enterprising DM that just has a bunch of books on his shelf that he never lets the players reference, why wouldn't he allow a player, like, listen, one day while you're at home, you get a knock at the door. And this Tinker Gnome's there, and he says, hey, I got an idea. And so out pops the book, the catalog, the ultimate equipment tome that you've had for your game for over 10 years. You never let people use it because it breaks the game. It doesn't break the game. You're just a shitty DM.
That's what I'm about to say. If you're not using that equipment, why did you buy the book?
Well, the reason why I don't
To
use it
equip the
all the time is
monsters.
that I want it to be special.
Right.
I don't bring it in at first level.
Right.
I bring it in around 8th.
But the thing is
Around
that
8th level. 8th level, I think, is where you've got like a visit from the king or Q or whoever it is that you're working kind of alongside. And they're like, hey, I got an idea that might help your life. And so you make some of those things kind of available, but not truly an unlimited amount. We've got about 20 of these. You want to try them? Here you go. Take notes and let us know what it does. Thanks.
yeah.
And you've just become a beta tester.
Yeah.
I mean,
And plus,
okay.
the
Not
GM
liable for any injury. Yeah.
Say again.
Not liable for any self-inflicted injuries.
And the GM then gets to bring out all the charts that they love because GMs love charts. Oh, look, this is a miscability chart for potions. Yeah. So I'm just saying that you should probably be doing that as a DM. You should.
And yes, you're right. It is a bit of metagaming, but players just do that. It's almost impossible to get players to just forget every single modern thought that they've ever had, and go put themselves because first off, there is no perfect idea. Like, we don't have a grasp of what real life really was like back then. What culture, which culture are we talking about? Which Western civilization in insert year? Because at which point, that earlier comment we just had about well, not every GM is a master historian. Well, if suddenly you need to be able to contemplate how you're going to run a game, but only locked. So you need to be able to say, okay, we are going to be starting in the fields of Normandy, in Normandy, France. Get out your book, start to take notes. In the year of, say, 1112, random year, 1112 AD, Normandy region. You better be able to know the language, culture, everything that's going to be here. This is what's going to be happening. If you think anything out of Northern French culture in this century, in this location, in this region, you're not going to get be able to have someone go. But it must be like, I'm not a French historian of that region because I'm going to play an elf. Okay, then tell me the elven culture and how it actually works in depth, and make sure you bring nothing modern to it. So every player is going to bring something. Plus, okay, so what year do we choose here? Okay, what year was crossbows introduced? You can't use a crossbow. Why? Crossbows weren't introduced in that year. I'm going to use a longsword. Which longsword are we talking about here? Are we talking about this longsword or this longsword style? Your longsword that you may be thinking about might actually be considered an arming sword or a bastard sword. I'm sorry, you're from this region. You don't get to have that weapon. That's not available in your region. So stop bringing a Northern Germanic weapon into a French region. I'm sorry, you can't have your rapier rogue. That wasn't available in this century. Sorry, because that's what that evolves in the Renaissance. We're not playing a Renaissance era game. Can I have split mail? That fell out of popularity a few centuries ago. You can't have that. Can I have full plate? That won't be invented for a few more centuries. But the book says, I'm sorry, that will not be available for a few more centuries. You can't choose that. Don't bring your modern knowledge into this. But the player's handbook, don't bring your modern knowledge into this, guys. Don't
use logic in a world full of magic.
Yeah, but don't worry. Magic is also but magic is somehow, well, where did it come from? What face are we working with here? Oh, which dogmas are we all working with here? Have you written a thesis paper on the dogma of your god's religion? Can you just tell me that? I can't. I'm sorry.
Well, okay. Fuck's sake. No, I agree. I mean, I get where you're coming from on this. I think it really just depends on the DM and the players. Kai, I have a general idea if I sit down at your table. I know if I sit down at Jaide's table, or even Bruce, if we're able to, finish a campaign, that's not a slide towards you, Bruce.
No.
If we're able to finish a campaign, the next story will be connected. I have no doubt in my mind that's the way that you three DM. But there's some DMs out there. I'm playing devil's advocate. This is what I'm doing. I'm just playing devil's advocate. There are certain DMs out there that work Monday through Monday, and somehow Tuesday night they're able to throw a few hours together, hang out with their friends, and they're gamers like us. All they want to do is roll some dice, RP for a few hours, go home, laugh about last night's game, and move on with their lives. Mm-hmm. Where four of us, if I could turn this into a paying profession, do you think I wouldn't do it? Nor would I. I'm sure the three of us would. Yeah, the four of us would. If we found a way to make this a paying gig, wait, I did once, but that's besides the point. We wouldn't do it, but we're willing to invest more time and energy into what we love than the average person might be able to.
Yeah.
And, Google or whatever other search engines you want to use is a powerful tool to be able to go, throw random history elements together. You can actually do a lot of research with tools that are out there. There's whole libraries of information, and it's not just on Google. A lot of people might go to Wikipedia, but there's actual university libraries of books that you can actually access. I can't remember them off the top of my head. It's been a long time since I've been in college.
Is where you start, go down to the bottom to the resources that were used, the cited sources, and then go read the actual original source material.
Yeah, there's that. There's also your local libraries. You can do a lot of research there. Granted, you might have to spend a couple hours doing a little bit of research on, the region and the types of weapons you want in your game, or the things you want to allow. But, a GM has to put in the time to make his or her game, more than just hack and slash, murder,
more than
murder
just
hobo night.
Or maybe just the player's handbook.
There's the catch in that sentence, though, Jaide. You said a DM has to, and here's the DM should.
Yeah, GM should.
He doesn't have to do anything than pick out.
You're right.
The notebook and say what we're doing today.
Except, pull up a monster manual, roll randomly. He's like, all right, you're fighting this tonight. And
right.
Your monster of the week.
Right. We've both been in campaigns with a DM that did that.
I have.
It drove me up the fucking wall.
And I didn't stay very long either. I stayed maybe 3 sessions, and I was gone. because I want more out of a game than just
Right.
Monster of the Week. I'm not playing Supernatural, seasons 1 through 3. I want more than just Monster of the Week.
Yeah.
I want Supernatural last couple seasons where it's one monster the entire season.
Well, I mean, at that point, you're into epic levels, if you think about it. At that point, the characters are at epic level. They're fighting literal gods.
What are we fighting? The Wendigo. Fuck.
You are right.
Yeah.
The GM does have one job: entertain the players. But the thing is that you have the choice on either giving them only pure fluff and sugar, where they just end up having a no value and a no real value experience, or you can put the effort in and make it an interesting experience. So yeah, I only have one job. I can be entertaining.
Sorry. What
was that? What was that?
No, not going there. Not going there.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
but,
we're not going there.
Okay, but
no.
The thing is that I guess what I'm really advocating for is that while yes, low effort is okay. It's not, it's fun. In the end, your players are happy and they leave. Cool. If they come back, better. But I think everybody deserves better than what we accept. Like, sure, path of least resistance is definitely a viable course of action. There's nothing wrong with that. But I guess after a number of years, I'm not satisfied with that. And so I, as a GM, would want to do what I would want others to do. I would like a better game. I would like to experience a better game. So instead of, since I know I'm not going to be able to play, I'm going to give a better game to my players. They're not asking me to do endless work. They're not asking me to do hours of research. They don't, as far as they're concerned, they just walk in. I can make it all up on top of my head, and they all get to go home happy. But I put in the homework on my own because I think they deserve a far better game. They deserve rewards that are worth their time of input. If they can see that they put more work in and they get a good reward, they'll want to put more work in so they can get an even better reward. And so if they push the stakes higher, sure, they risk more, they risk losing a lot, but it's worth it because it becomes a feedback loop, a positive feedback loop, much like if you put no effort in as a GM and they put no effort in as players, it's a negative feedback loop, and it eventually spirals down to no one giving a shit. But if you put effort in and then they can see that, and then they reward you by being attentive players, take notes, and then you reward that by being a good GM and giving them rewards for being good players, and then it continues to spiral upwards. And suddenly you don't need to have it be just a monster of the week. You don't need to have it be the town constable comes up to you and goes, help us. A CR12 monster has broken into the neighborhood and has turned people into kibbles and bits. Could you please save us? Could you take you and your ass, which is carrying your loot, with you and go and take care of CR12 monster? Why, yes. Will we get paid for that? We shall pay you off of treasure table 12.
Oh, 12, treasure table 12. That's got some good stuff on it. Yeah, guys, let's go.
Let's go, guys. We get some good loot out of this. And now we go off into Dungeon Tile Book number 3, and we now go fight the CR12 monster and a few other encounters before we encounter it. But because now your players are invested, and now when that game ended, because they were good players, now we're moving forward. They should get rewards for that, and then suddenly they're now invested. It's an endless positive feedback loop. And when you do have players leave, the new players who come in, the rest of them goes, dude, it's worth it. Take notes, think, be good. This is fantastic. I'm in way over my head. And as one person put it once, it's like good because history is a confusing, horrible topic, and nobody understands it, and we're all born in over our heads. Figure it out as you go, and you just jump in, and suddenly it's a good loop. But you have to put in the initial effort to make it a good loop. That you have to put make a mechanical give a mechanical reward that is tangible, seeable, visible, that they can put down, saying, these people I'm giving give these possible aspects, favors that are owed, abilities, bonuses. That way there's something that they can see or at least comprehend, and that carries forward with it. But again, it comes down to, you need to have somebody who's, it's a team effort. Like I said, if you put little effort in, you get little effort out. Back.
I'm using this as an example, well, at least for me. I don't like. There's a reason why I'm bringing this into this. I didn't ever really care for Pathfinder's version of Gunslinger. I always thought I could make a Gunslinger that mechanically work better. So I asked Jaide, "Hey, do you mind if I play this type of character in your campaign?" Jaide said yes. We told a story where my character that invented the first what?
Drink.
Right, drink. So my character invented a gun, the very first gun in his world, which came with a horrible cost, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah. So
when that hold on, when that game wrapped up, we're going to do another game X amount of years later. Cool. I will play his grandson. And that game lasted a while, not because it died, not because we didn't want to play it, just everybody moved in 5 fucking directions.
Yeah.
So the reason why I'm saying this is, if you give your players a hook, something that they can build with, because most DMs don't let their characters play with guns. No, this is fantasy. Guns are not allowed in my fantasy. Then if you got a player that wants to spend some brain cells from, like, well, if he's letting me make guns, what kind of guns are reasonable at this era? No, I can't make a 50 caliber, but can I make a shotgun that shoots, I don't know, a stake when we're fighting vampires? Why not?
Yeah,
a blunderbuss.
Yes, can.
And so you give that player, me for example, the ability to stretch his imagination mechanically to make things work in the world that's presented with him with the rules that are allowed. Yeah, I think all guns should do X, Y, and Z. He thought all guns should do A, B, and C. Did we agree on everything? No. But was it a fun campaign? Hell yes. Give your players something they can work with in the game. Will go on better, and there's 10 to 1. You can pull off that legacy if you're able to keep that group around long enough, because shit does happen.
You have no idea how many hours of research I spent on firearms through the ages.
I remember how many dirty looks I got from you at the beginning of the game.
Man, I went all the way from flintlock through percussion lock through matchlocks. I did a little bit of research on wheel locks, and then eventually made it into alchemical cartridges, the Dresden needle gun. I did
the door knocker.
The door knocker I kind of borrowed from an anime I was watching at the time.
I don't care. It's fucking awesome.
It was a great concept of a weapon. Terrible implementation.
So Jaide made this chart for me that I later on and transferred his chart to a different campaign I was running because the tools were made.
Yeah, and honestly, we as sharing those tools, like these charts that he made that you used, things that I've written, I've had other players. I go, that's cool. That's great. Like, we should be inspiring other people to. That's a good idea. Why are we not sharing more of this shit? Why are we not going, hey, here's a table, here's a more realistic chart on how goods should cost. Here's how
the tools we have now didn't exist 10, 15, 20 years ago.
I don't know.
Right. But the thing is, but we've all put the work in individuals as groups to make these tools. Yet certain people act like if they weren't hard-coded, written by some crotchety old bastard 40 years ago,
some piece of shit with a fucking college degree, straight out of some crappy school, and plummeted straight into fucking Pacific Northwest.
Like if it didn't have the Wizards of the Coast logo on it, or a Paizo logo on it, or insert favorite company here, this could.
I don't know. You know, there was a comment that was made last week. I don't know if it was on this chat or if it was in Chilling with Max, but the concept that health potions could be addictive.
Yeah,
brought up, and I'm like, oh my god, oh my gosh! I got off the chat. What? You know, I got off the chat, and I'm like, sitting talking to one of the other DMs on my Monday games, and like, I got a dickish idea. I just heard about. He's like, what's that? Make healing potions addictive. Every time you take one, you have to make a con save to see if you are able to not get drawn into the addiction. He's like,
you see, that would work better in a different system other than straight D&D. That would work actually better in something like Iron Kingdoms, written for 3.5, where, you know, if your alignment and religious beliefs didn't align perfectly with the cleric casting the curative spells on you, you could potentially take boatloads of damage.
You could heal somebody to death in that system.
Yeah, you actually could heal somebody to death in that system. That was pretty fantastic. And you know, that's where something like potion addiction or curative addictions would probably be better suited than straight. Because I'll be honest, I've never played 5e. I'm probably not going to play 5e.
It's I play 5e. All the games I'm running right now are out of 5e, other than Bruce's, which is based off Pathfinder-ish. I don't mind 5e. I can work in the mechanics of 5e, but keep in mind, whatever the books come out with, I have the final say at my table. If I disagree with the ruling, I have final fucking say. And if whoever WizKids West Coast doesn't like it, they can kiss my little white ass. It's my table, my game.
Now, how would I handle, you know, Pyrex if my players deemed that they needed to work with substances that for glass that was fire resistant? So if they could figure out how to create an approximation of the process, what chemical, you know, what, like standard glass is fragile. Well, I want it to be a little stronger. They think the alchemist, you know, the glass crafter works with the alchemist, figures out the compound solution, and then they create Pyrex. Now you got a harder substance, kind of toxic to work with, might cause problems. You know, if you make it in an improper environment, causes potential death that will come from it. But in the end, you have glass that has a better hardness rating, better resistance versus fire. It doesn't melt as easy. Now you can start working with higher temperature chemicals. Now you can, like that mage who's now working with you, who's now going, well, I trapped the essence of a salamander in this rock, so now it burns perpetually at a high temperature that would melt things. Well, now this glass is better, so now you're able to make better compounds, better mixtures. The transparent aluminum, come on, that's legitimately, I've seen players go, well, I can work with this particular substance, they start figuring out combinations and making weird alloys. We got magic, so we can make really bizarre alloys and weird combinations to the point where transparent aluminum isn't that phenomenal. When you have a material science player look at you and look at come to the table and he's like, so really is aluminum just this? I'm sorry, is mithril really just this particular metal? Well, it's got similar properties to that, yeah. And does adamantine really this compound an alloy mixture? Yeah, it's got similar compounds. So we actually already have, through magical materials, already at certain metallurgical points that we were higher in there, yeah, and blacksmiths know how to work this with some fiery forge that they're just, sitting there with some coal and they can just make this. Yeah. Well, shit. And I'm like, oh no, the engineers and material scientists have figured out how to play Dungeons and Dragons, and suddenly they're going, well, obviously, if I can figure out a mine and be able to get enough ingots of this, and suddenly their brains go off into whole new directions. You're like, well, I better take notes and start learning myself to be able to keep up with these guys. And
get a nuclear bomb.
Or your players go, I don't need a nuclear bomb. Nuclear bombs cause radiation. I don't want that. But if I can figure out how to create if I can figure out how to create a device that casts delayed blast fireball in a certain amount of time, and then figure out how to, through telekinesis, tear open the containment package, and then use smaller telekinesis balls that will then scatter the fireball pellets out over a wide variety, and then I give this to the archer, and the archer fires at 200 feet that way, and we obliterate the entire field. And you're like, no, you may not use improved munitions iron weaponry, guys. You can't do that. And they're like, no, we're already figuring out how to do it, and we're gonna but it's expensive. We're adventurers. We're rich. And they're suddenly going,
but it's time consuming.
Oh yeah, but they've got
they're
already figuring this shit out. When they're figuring out this shit,
they can figure out all the things they want.
And the thing is that, and if this doesn't work for this encounter, well, they've already figured it out for the next encounter. And I guarantee you, the 4 players who are now working together to combine their talents like Voltron, and they're all sitting here going, and then suddenly they're all coming back going, okay, so we couldn't use it against this threat, but we do have it against in storage. And because we didn't have it for the last threat, we're going to mass stockpile this weapon in the armor, in this hidden armory that only we know about. And when we need it, we're just going to wheel it out, and then we're going to terrorize entire countrysides. And it's like, so players think like this, or at least creative players think like this.
Oh my god! Oh, another argument to keep notes.
And you can't really stop players going, tech-placed magic equals too cartoony. There's nothing that says you can't mix these things in the rules. Players are going to figure out how to do it. And if it is something as stupid, as simple as the ballista bolt of ultimate destruction, aka the dumbest thing in the universe, the portal hole plus bag of holding nuclear weapon that annihilates everything if it hits. Congrats.
I wouldn't do that.
But I've seen players run up to bosses and go, "This is a worthy sacrifice." Woo! And then hug the boss, annihilate themselves, and go, "Well, the demon lord's gone. That was good."
Is he really?
Oh well.
I mean,
he's in another dimension. He's just been. But the evil and the evil arc wizard warlord is now trapped between dimensions. I think we won this one, guys. And when players start to go, no, this is what the basic introduction is, they start to get really creative, really fast. And if that becomes them going, okay, so this is a staff of the Magi, right? Yeah, if we break the staff, it causes a monstrous fireball, right? Okay, cool. Load it. Wait, what? Load it. Click. We don't need most of what, our wizard already does 3/4 what that staff does anyway. But the staff is really cool, and it has load it into the into the ballista bolt, fire it at it, and then something you have this missile that flies at something, hits it, and then explodes, and then the poor dragon goes, "Oh no, I have a hole in me. This sucks," and falls to the ground dead. Oh no, that hurts. And those are just introductions on what you can do with the core rules. The rules is written, and then players get creative. Why are you not giving your players creativity?
Yeah, Jade.
Hey, I let my players be creative all they want.
Yeah, until it bites them in the ass.
I just put realistic expectations in place.
No, I'm picking fun at him because I've had a habit of in the past putting things on blunted arrow tips and firing them at creatures, such as beads of force or pearls of fireball,
which,
or
by the rules, not allowed.
But
By the rules, you cannot take beads of fireball from a strand of fireball necklace and put them on the end of an arrow. The reason for that is the actions in the actual item description say you take a bead from the necklace and you throw it. The moment it leaves your fingers is when it's primed and ready to go off. So you can't just stick it on a blunt arrow and then store it in your bag, because the moment it makes contact, it goes off.
But could you use Mage Hand to pull one of those beads off the necklace?
Technically, yes, because it is less than 5 pounds of force to take it off.
Okay. Give me some time. I can figure out how to organize this.
The better way of doing it is just having a efficient quiver, or actually I can't remember the original name of it. Basically, an efficient quiver that has stasis on the inside of the bag.
Yeah. No, I can't really argue with that. Rules as written, yes, he is absolutely on point there. I have thought of multiple different ways to cheese it by just super gluing arrows, keeping it on the chain, and just super gluing the arrows to it, and just daisy chain it with rapid shot.
But now, Max, you're right. There is a thing called too much imagination. But the thing here is that when I'm once again looking at D&D, there's a certain point here where we've all seen the logarithmic curve where marshals advance in a straight linear fashion, but spellcasters advance in this spike, this hockey stick that just rises up into the stratosphere. So as your players try to stay viable, so players are trying to think of ways to stay relevant in light of the fact that you're being overshadowed by the spellcasters at a certain point. And yeah, there's this nice inflection point where they two cross. And if you could halt time at that point when the line crosses, it's great. But no game ever stays at that perfect unison, that perfect crossing point. So you need to have players who are thinking about how do I stay relevant when these guys are up here altering reality and I hit things 3 times in a round with a stick. And so they figure out how to develop new tricks, how to incorporate and keep up. This is where the tech increase that I say happens because you either accept that you're going to be outclassed by the people who are going like this and go, well, whatever, I have lots of hit points and I can hit now 3 times around, while the other guy is creating alternate realities, and the other guy over there turns into Godzilla, and the other cleric summons a celestial army because he can, while he's bringing back the dead, while I just hit 3 guys with a good stick hard.
The paladin / wizard casts time stop.
Right.
I'm sitting there with a stick and a string, holding my dick, hoping for the best.
So now, your melee. So people try to catch up, and that's where you're like, campaign ends. Well, so you've been trying to keep pushing your up to keep up, and now you're time jumping. Why didn't anyone figure out how to keep up with your tricks? Because obviously you survived, right? Yeah. You pass on your knowledge, right? Yeah.
Sometimes you survive.
Or sometimes you do something incredibly stupid and you don't survive.
Yeah.
The thing is that it is this is escapism. You're giving players more power than they really have, so they're enjoying the idea of what can I do with all of this power? What if I'm playing a character who can change reality? How do I change reality and make it better? Do I just do it? How do I make it interesting? You gotta somebody has to want to do something. It's more interesting than just simply following an equation. If you could follow a flow chart of what is the optimal solution of this is how I move, this is where I do to get to the optimal solution, be able to make my optimal attack pattern. This is the spell I cast. at this moment in this situation that I will get through the encounter. And so you're following a some little ever increasingly complex flowchart of, okay, are they within this thing? Do I cast this? Do I do this? Do I operate in this? Some optimal mechanical equation that you're following, a program. If you can program your character into, you don't need to be there. You just hand a flowchart to somebody, and it runs itself. Yeah, but there's something always more. And escapism really is just that, giving the players the ability to do more. If you have, I'm sorry, I'll shut up now.
So I'm going to answer something Biggest Geek has asked about, when Cigar DM was talking about super gluing things to arrows. The super glue he's talking about game-wise for D&D specifically was called sovereign glue. He would actually go buy sovereign glue, and I made the ruling that, it's going to work like anytime you enchant magical ammunition, you can use it on up to 50 pieces of ammunition. So he would go buy one jar of sovereign glue and affix things that would explode or do some kind of magical effect onto the ends of blunted arrows, 50 at a time. And he would actually have a full list of, a breakdown of everything he had, because I'm an asshole DM.
Did I ever once?
You will track your shit.
Exactly.
I'm tracking your shit.
I never once bitched about making a chart, keeping notes, saved my ass in different situations. I bought a globe of sunlight out of 3.5, right? A globe of sunlight. Do we all remember what that son of a bitch did?
Oh man, God, that item.
I wrote it down in a notebook saying, what does everybody want to buy? I wanted to buy 3 of these gold, and this was way, way before I ever fucking had the chance to use it. I bought it like 4 or 5 levels before then. Then all of a sudden, we're not known to me because I'm a player. We fight a fucking vampire. I'm like, I don't have anything to stop that. Wait, let me check my notes. Globe of sunlight. Hey, I need this book really quick. I grab it. I pull the book up. I read. Produces daylight, as in the daylight spell. Mr. DM. Yes, I have this. Where? It's in my notes, and there was always dates on the sheet whenever I did anything. Yeah. I bought anything.
Yeah, because again, I was an asshole GM who tracked, what the party had, because I put everything into a spreadsheet. When I would roll loot, I would roll loot before the players even sat down at the table. I knew what they were getting from my encounters, and I would have a list of what was there. And anytime someone goes, "Hey, I'm gonna use this item that we used," and if it was a consumable item, I'd mark it off my list. I'd mark it off the master copy. And I basically did that to keep my players honest, because I've had players in the past where I didn't track anything whatsoever, and I would say, okay, you guys find a +2 sword of evisceration, and every single person at the table wrote it down. So suddenly one item became 6. So I'm like, all right, you know what? No, we're not playing that. We're not playing this game of, I said, there was 6 of these. No, there was 1, and I'm going to keep you guys honest, because I got tired of getting cheesed by basically people who just wanted to cheese the game. At that point, go play Gloomhaven. Go play, any tabletop tile-based game that walks you through a dungeon, or better yet, go cheat on Baldur's Gate or Neverwinter.
Now, in the chat, we had this little conversation of like things are just not always lying around. Depends. Are you running with like the good old days when you'd kill a monster and there'd be a random loot table that would just randomly throw shit at you? Because that was for a while in vogue. So
no, whenever I did 3.5 DM.
Okay. But or you just randomly roll so in private you randomly rolled up your loot tables. It's like, okay, so we're gonna fight this guy and he's got XYZ and this item that has no use whatsoever.
Those went to the trash.
Was that?
Those went to the trash.
And
they were items that the individuals could actually use in combat, or they went into the trash.
But the thing is, I'll be honest, because I went with the idea that, well, you don't know, like, that person who got killed and now why the monster has all that loot, he might have thought it was important and valuable, so he used it. And these are items that were just, because the world is bigger than you, the world isn't geared to you, so you're just part of the world. And so the items that you find, not all of it's going to be valuable to you now. It may never be valuable to you. So they might accrue some items that seem to have absolutely no value and no use. And player characters are pack rats. They will hold on to shit. They will just hold on to things. And then someday down the road, you're like, bad thing happens. And like, wait, does somebody remember if we got a silver dagger like 5 to 10 adventures ago? And
or a thin 1 inch by 1 inch by 12 inch long box that's got a little bit of an inscription in a language you don't understand. You know what? I went and learned that language. Guess what the inscription says? Rowboat.
Yeah. So at one point they suddenly go, wait, we have this stuff. And so having the random debris of weird items that have no immediate value and might never have value can be lying around. And suddenly you do have that player. Well, shit, I do have a globe of sunlight.
I think we've strayed a little bit.
But the thing is that, yeah, we are, but it's all part of the same ultimate. Once players can figure out how to make items themselves, they're going to make these things. And these things should carry on into the future. So Absolutely. If players do this, do cheap trash, that cheap trash is going to continue to linger about. It will build up.
If I can jump really.
Oh, go ahead.
To answer your first question, go back. I just want to answer this really quick. When I was running 3.5 or Pathfinder, and I was doing a random character, random treasure, I ran it out straight. Then I looked at it. Then I looked at what they were fighting. If there's no way, in the back of my head, there's no way an owlbear would have kept a tome of magic at least in one piece. It would have ripped it, tore it up. So what the loot the party got from monster had to make a certain amount of sense. If they go off and fight a fucking dragon, whatever I fucking rolled is whatever, because fucking dragons hoard like a motherfucker.
They hoard better than players.
They do. And so if they're fighting an evil sorcerer, sure, it's, God only knows what that ass had. But if they're fighting monsters, straight out monsters, owlbears, or what are those cats? Phase cats.
Displacer beasts.
They might have some jewelry because it came off of the characters that the past characters that they ate. But it wasn't going to be anything it won't be anything that would have been naturally just ripped up like paintings or books or what the fuck ever like that. I mean, that kind of goes with my common sense style, my common sense thought of DMing.
Yes. The next comment down. I also keep track of weight loads. Yes, I do.
Yeah. It's a real bitch when you're getting weighted down by gold because you don't have a chance to fucking spend it anywhere. Well, I'm just going to start throwing this gold away.
Yeah,
don't throw gold away. Throw away your copper. I don't have any left.
It's part of the game that everybody just overlooks. Don't track weight. Why? Because why would we track weight? We're big damn heroes. We can carry literally the entire weight of the world on our shoulders. Why can't we carry
your poor donkey is about dead?
Right? Why can't we carry 5,000 pounds of loot? Because your strength is a 10.
This is why you keep a cart with you. I know it's a pain in the ass. Yes, the horses might die, but keeping a cart and a willing way to be able to move that cart using magic, if the wizard has that ability, makes fucking sense in the long run because you're not having to haul 5,000 fucking pounds of bullshit because the next town over you can't sell it to.
But getting back onto point, if the players are cooking up all sorts of shenanigans, and they've made the ballista bolt of infield hell, where it drops thousands of little miniature beads of delayed blast fireball over a 500-foot area. you know what? The next story, as far as generational games go, the next story, that might be a weapon of war. They might have to contend against that.
It might be outlawed if caught with it, jail time.
Or that. When whatever your players do in the first game, as far as like technology that they create, magic items that they dream up, spells that they cook up, anything that they create, as long as you're taking good notes on it and, keeping it in the back of your mind for the next game, it's something you can actually pull out of your journal against them. They can become their own worst enemies as far as metagame goes. Like, oh yeah, he's like, we're gonna get one of those ballista bolts. Really? You're gonna get a siege weapon of war in a time of peace? That's a war crime, right? Or I was like, all right, I'm gonna go learn this one spell that this one hero had. Okay, yeah, that's gonna take you some time to learn because it took them 10 years to figure out how to do it. It might take you 2 years to go do it. So go ahead and roll up a new character, and we'll have you step out of the game world for 2 years in the game time, and we'll play with the next character.
Wait, here's another thought, and we're talking about equipment and stuff like that. You got your first group goes and knocks off the big bad, it being a lich of whatever, or king, evil king, or whatever. That party just created a power vacuum that may have consequences for the next party that they have to contend with. And so that can also be a item of interest. All right, you guys killed the bad guy. What are we doing next? Well, 10 years from now, because you killed X, Y, the lich named Bob, you now have to go deal with his assistant named Harry.
Absolutely. Anything your players do in the previous game, if they left any loose threads, it should actually come back into the next game.
Yeah.
Okay, so your, min-max McMurder hobo wiped out an entire lord's manor, including the lord, but he didn't get the son. Guess what? That son grew up with, a rage and anger towards that player's character. That player's character's great grandson now has to contend with this deep-seated family vengeance pact against him or her because their grandsire did something, because they were a min-maxing McMurder hobo. And it all comes back to GMs taking good notes from their current game. If you want a generational game, you have to tie in things and you have to take notes from things you did. Otherwise, it just kind of falls apart. Or you're trying to rely on memory. And, well, as we get older, our memories aren't that great.
I remember it one way. My DM remembers it another way. What was that character I played? Darian Hawk? No, I thought his name was Darian Fox. Right. I missed that character. He became a saint.
Yeah, I'm writing the Bronze Age to that same world. So,
guess what sainthood gets you in 3.5? Dick.
Nothing.
Well, I don't know. I want to take it back to generational, and I want to take it to the economy side, like what Kai was talking about, because that's a good place for the weeds to be. In your game, if you're playing a game where you've already had 100 years of established history, with the last 2 years of your fat asses sitting around a table and rolling dice and moving and having pieces around a battle mat or a cigar box battle board or whatever it is, if you've already had that, just look at the player's handbook and double to quadruple the prices of everything.
Oh, wow, yeah, that's not weeds, there, Bruce. That's not weeds. That's the fucking lawn care system sitting off the bill.
No, I'm not falling asleep, Garrett. I was thinking about it, and I just like dropped the portal. There's the inflation cost. Everything goes up, man.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Everything goes up. When this campaign book was written, when this PH was written, your stuff was so cheap. You could actually do everything and roll your starting gold, and you could have a set of armor and a weapon. Now I'm going to make you choose.
Weapon or armor.
Right. No, I mean you bring up a good point, because economies are not static.
Ever.
They change constantly.
Never. They're never static.
Right. As a matter of fact, there was, I believe it was in Iron Kingdoms. Granted, this knowledge is over 10 years old at this point. When I was running Iron Kingdoms, I'm fairly certain that each country had their own coinage system, and it had different values. And it would
It
also
did.
have different values based on like going from one country to the next country and exchanging coinage. Like when you'd go from Signar to I'm butchering these names and I know it. If you go from Signar to I don't know Iosian enclave, your money might be worthless based on the political climate there. And that's another aspect of the game that you have to think about from one generation to the next generation is what happened geopolitically speaking with your previous characters. Did they topple governments? Did they walk in and kick the ass of every assassin in an Assassin's Guild, but didn't get all of them that were out in the field on mission? These are things you have to notate. Not just the what did they create, who did they piss off, but how did they influence the economy? Like,
Mhm.
what did they do, like with their inventions, that caused, what kind of ripple effect did it have with the rest of the world? Did they make this amazing piece of technology? Sure. How much does it cost? And what job does it eliminate now?
I remember reading. This is this can kind of work on this conversation too, but I remember reading a history the when the guns first came out. Let's say the revolvers, you could buy a decent revolver for under $5. Now nowadays, add a couple more zeros to that.
Now, I can even look at that from a different point of view. I've seen players who didn't choose weapons; they chose a magical route. They they figured out how much it costs to create permanent teleport circles, and figured out that if I only use it this many times per day, I can have this much of a shipping volume using this amount of people. They figured out how to create magical communication networks that sent relays of information across. Like suddenly, time information travel times become not weeks or months waiting for a report to come back from over a continent. Now it's arriving as fast as the spell allows it to be transmitted by. Like where somebody went with the idea of, all right, I have and one player went, I'm like, well, you can't do that. Well, he's like, okay, so I'm going to do this combination of, and they figured out how to create, in short, a simple relay network of level 1 minions who could all cast a spell, and it created communication networks. And now you have, how does communication delays being eradicated? Like it's suddenly you have a Dark Age is looking at telegraph machines. It's not telegraph, but it's the equivalency of a level of change that telegraph would bring. Teleport circles, like, well, it costs a lot of money, dude. How many merchants would pay you a king's ransom to take a wagon, to not have to pay guards and not have to wait 3 weeks for transit times? You're now looking at like revolutions that we would wait.
The Trader Coaster Guild will either be involved with you, or you will have another campaign where they will try to kill your entire family.
I know,
Yep.
and that's the fun part about it. But the thing is that you're looking at ramifications that come from this, and it's like, you may be starting the Spacers Guild. Congratulations. Enjoy it. Enjoy creating the equivalency of the D&D version of the Spacers Guild. Suddenly, travel times become between major continents fast. trade becomes quick. How does that change everything? Because sure, they killed you, but your idea didn't die with it.
What did we use? Ring gates?
Yeah, I've seen players use ring gates. I've seen them use the rules to create forgotten realms and transportation gates. I've seen players who have abused the the wall of iron fabrication spells and suddenly crash economies like that. Now there's you have nigh on infinite resources. Like,
oh yeah, that wall of iron. I've seen that. I've seen that spell. It wasn't to crash the economy of a country. It was a crash to crunch a monster. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Using spells like that, where they can hack down the iron wall to turn into ingots to make other shit with.
You're right. You're right, Chad. It wasn't Forgotten because that's the book that we read it through, and then suddenly there are players. But why should But when players start figuring out, wait, we could actually do this, and then rather than go, it's a cool factoid in a book, and they start actually doing it.
Oh yeah.
Looking at their downtime and going, we can build entire networks of waygates across planets. Why are we not? Well, it costs money. We are rich as fuck, guys. This is
the player characters might be rich, and they might have done a lot of things to advance technology. However, there will be factions set against them who are willing to sabotage, break, or disrupt those things.
And the thing is, that's
because
cool.
Not everybody likes change.
I know. Obviously, I look at people in the chat. They don't like change either. Yes, but
and that's nothing wrong with that, half or the whole chat whatsoever. It's just that there's a lot of people that want to play the game as it was written. There's other people that want to play the game and evolve it. But we're not talking about evolve it to where we have pronouns. We're talking about where we have it evolve to where technology is reflected a little bit, magic is reflected that a little bit, and you have a definite difference between every 10 years.
Oh yeah. If the game does not grow within it, if the world that you're building, if you're a home brewer, and if the world does not grow with every generation, as Kai said earlier, why the fuck do you bother?
Yeah.
I mean, once again, going to modules, I've had a DM here recently would use one module and hop over to the next, as long as it was sandbox enough and he could work the math where you jump from A to go to B, but you're using the same characters continually, the storyline. And I thought that was kind of cool. The story should not end because how should I put this? The story should not end because you run into a blockade. You should find a way around it. If it is doing the jump in time, or your grandfather saved the world from X and it's your turn because of a power play, or what was the one I dealt? A time spell went off, and there's two different realities. Depends on your actions on how this plays out. One of these realities, your forefathers failed, and you have to clean up their mess. The other one, they succeeded, and it's a whole different scenario of a fucking can of worms.
Yeah, I've also run that game where the big bad heroes from the previous generation succeeded, so that I told the next story that happened. I think it was 30 years later, and I'm like, okay, so you're living in this world and it's peaceful and whatnot, and all these things happened. You suddenly get transported to a world that's like yours, but everything that can be decided with a coin flip from 30 years ago was opposite of what happened in your world. Go. The world is in shambles. The economy is nothing. Bullets at this point are, because it was a advanced firearm game. Bullets are currency. Water is currency. Food can be currency. These are all aspects of a generational game that I took, from the events that happened in the previous game and turned
Shadar.
literally everything on its head and said, okay, everything that happened in that game world happens in that game world. This mirror dark universe, it happened completely opposite. And shit went horrible for everyone. And I thought it was a fun experimental game for me. I have had several players in it that some have said that they would like to have seen that game to its end. But again, we went to the four winds.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck. I know yesterday's on the Gatekeeper, we were talking about you and Max talked about mundane items. Fuck. There's a certain there's a certain person in this chat room is the main reason where all my characters carry around a crowbar and dust of dryness because it's fucking useful.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I'd like to see more inventive play among players, and I'd like to see more thinking out of the box with the GM. I really would. I understand that some people don't like third edition. That's fine, Chadzar. I'm not asking you to play WotC version, okay? But I want people to enjoy the game they've got. And the thing is that after you've played the same game for 20 years, when somebody screams, I want to run B2, I'm not throwing my hand in the air. I got to play this. I've already done it. When somebody says, man, I want to play Rise of the Rune Lords again, I point them towards Andy. Hey, you got somebody. And if they're a 5e player and you're not around, I can find Robert. Robert will find a way to cram them into a game to where he can kill them because that's what he does. But I've already played those games. I want to play something that's evolved a bit. Earlier, we talked about Return of the Rune Lords, which was a really good idea, but horrible execution for an adventure path because Paizo made it suck.
I've got to read through it. There was a continuation of the campaign that I'm running now that the players are wanting. They want something after this campaign.
You want to make him happy?
No, but I try.
Curse of the Crimson Throne.
Yeah.
Pathfinder, you'll be fine.
Is that with the red?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's a very good, detailed campaign. It enjoys a good flow of items. You have a workable campaign to where things change, and it's very dynamic. If you start off as a core rulebook player at the start of the campaign, you might evolve into a vigilante later on. It's really got some interesting concepts in it. It goes in a few different directions. But as far as a railroady type of adventure path, it's probably one of the best.
Fuck, you could turn that Kingmaker into a legacy game if you really wanted to.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
That's what it's meant for, almost.
Oh my God, we're all in unison.
Yeah.
All right, drink.
Yeah.
Let's call it there, guys.
You
We're
and
done.
Chad drink with us.
We're done. Let's go home.
All right. So, generational gaming, for me, it means we change the economy. It means that if the players are somebody's kid or grandkid, you want to have a world that recognizes them for good or for ill. It's more fun if it's for ill. It's more fun if you have nobles that are trying to off your party because you represent the legacy that they want to conquer. You represent the people that have made this world, and we are the SJWs to dethrone you. We are going to take over the patriarchy. Oh, did I do that? My bad. Anyway, you have yourselves as established wealth, and you might not get it from your grandparents right away. But if you do things to further your family's name, you might just be working for your family and they're giving you a stipend or an allowance. And so you get to do things to help your family out, and you can actually evolve the story quite a bit by, God damn it, drink again. By making it to where it's harder for your name to get some tarnished surface to it, as that's all they want. You could literally turn this into a traditional versus progressive game with that theory if you want to do that. And I'm not suggesting everybody does, because some people will not appreciate it. But you could have two fronts you're fighting on. You have the world where we're still on the borderlands somewhat, but we've cultivated out about 15 miles, and you have roads, and we have gardens, and we have farms. We have helpful druids. People are in relative harmony because your family's here. Your grandfather gets assassinated. The town's going to be upset, and then the chaos is going to reign for a while. How's your family going to handle that when your grandfather dies? How are you going to handle it? It's going to happen. You can't live forever. So you give them an opportunity to where they can fight the monsters or the foes that are at the frontier's edge, like what their grandfathers did before. But you also give them the added intrigue and the positioning games that all the guilds play, as they're like, we want to use these teleport circles that you have down, but we really don't want to pay the cost to use it. Can we discuss this? And you might come out of it to where you're making more money off the guild than your family ever has, or you might botch your roll with charisma, roll a natural 1, and your family goes bankrupt in 3 generations because you pretty much funded the guild's entire activities on a magical network. If you want to do that, and I do suggest you at least try it, because you and your players might like it more. I know Biggest Geekus and Randy are like, oh God, you're taking it more cosmopolitan. Yes and no. I do want the games to have, at least in the civilized areas, I want them to have something worth defending. I want there to be spots to where you want to preserve these areas, because if you pay a currency to use them, you get the benefits out of them. If I put in infrastructure, I want to ride the bus. I want to use the train. I want to enjoy the freeway. I don't want to be hassled for it. And whenever somebody else sees that, oh, you've got hobgoblins at the gates, you better be ready to deal with it. So I'm thinking that there's ways that you can do generational gaming and still keep it low level, low powered. You're still going to have things to where the players will have to toil, they'll have to craft, they'll have to do things, they'll have to hire friends or learn how to navigate with the family hired help and not get poisoned by an upset gardener. It could happen. So do that, because it might be something to where you're actually playing Dune, but in a fantasy magical world. Because everybody that I know is talking about Dune right now. They want to have the nobility, they want to have the struggle, they want to have the conflict, they want to have the intrigue.
Everybody wants Dune. Nobody wants the Jihad era to get to that point. So
I'm an asshole. I love the Jihad era.
No player, but how many players want to get to the Butlerian Jihad? Very few. I think it would be an amazing start. Mm-hmm. Then you would actually understand why the Harkonnens hate the Atreides. Oh God, that would be amazing.
If I sat down at a table, I know very little about Dune. But if I sat down at a table and the guy's like, "Well, we're gonna run the story of the history of Dune," I'm like, "Okay, well, I know X, Y, and spice. That's all I really fucking know." Well, we're starting at the very beginning of the world. I would honestly say hell yeah, because it's it could turn into a really great story. I know, drink.
The thing is
sorry, Shadzar, drink fucker.
It would be more fun if you went in going, hey, we're gonna play, like, don't tell them you're playing Dune, because you might have a few people who might go, wait, what year are we in? This year. Oh no, what's going on here? Well, you're currently at the rise of the, oh no, we're about to, yeah, and your new best friend is this guy. He sounds familiar. Who's that? This, what's happening? Oh, we're in for this, aren't we? You better, get ready for this. And now you get to the Butlerian Jihad. Then you get to have all the fun parts of the rise of the Empire, and now you get to keep working through that. And then you eventually get to reach the point where we get to see Paul, and you might not be anywhere near the planet until you get, and suddenly you're having your adventures, and then suddenly you get a call from the Emperor. Hey, I need you all of your troops to be here over this shithole dust ball. Why? Have you been reading the news? No, I've been having my adventures over here on the other side of the Empire. Well, get your ass over here, guys. Oh no. And that's when you realize it's now you versus Paul. You didn't know this was happening because you were having your own fun. Never let the party be the main characters of an existing universe.
Hey, I want, was it Duncan Idaho, to have his own damn movie. Fuck everything else. He was the coolest character in that movie. That's just me.
All right, but my apologies. I do have another obligation. I need to get out of here soon. So
we're 10 minutes away. We're 9 minutes away from it.
Okay.
And I'm sorry if we've lagged on your networks. I've been having smooth connections here, but this is a start of a discussion I want to have, because I want to keep going on this next week. I want to continue talking about generational gaming because I think it's something that we can actually help evolve, and we can start putting to where we can have bullet points for a game, and we can eventually graft it into house rules. And then eventually you make house rules popular enough, put them up on BBSs or forums or Discords or Guilded. And eventually this might be something that would be in another edition of a game you love. And while we're talking about Dungeons and Dragons, we're really talking about the whole of the tabletop RPG canon, because none of us are going to probably write for 6th edition Dungeons and Dragons. Nope. However, one of us is probably going to run an OSR or an independent RPG, because that would actually provide his players with a new set of challenges. Oh, Jade's going to do something.
He's grabbing something. Of course.
Index card RPG.
I need to end up coming over sometime and trying this game.
That's what I've been saying.
Yeah. So, and the beautiful thing about OSR stuff, you don't have to play rules as written all the time. Now, I'm going to get a lot of hate for that. You know what? I really don't care, because I like evolving the game. I like making interesting content within the game. So I'm not going to always run strict rules as written for certain items or things or spells or whatever, because the game has to be interesting. And if your players are just expecting the same boring bullshit all the time, they're not going to be at your table much longer. So you got to make it interesting. You got to keep it interesting. You got to keep them invested. So yeah, I'm going to run, more rules light games like Index Card RPG, because it's whatever you and your players imagine can happen in the game. You describe what you want to do with your roll, you roll. If you succeed, you succeed. If you don't succeed, you don't succeed. But, if you succeed, or if you don't succeed by just a slight margin, like by 1 point, you might get a better outcome than you would have if you rolled a nat 1.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents on. You don't have to run strict WotC games. Yeah, sure.
You never really should.
Huh?
You never really should run rules as written. You should, to get used to the game.
Yes, absolutely.
At some point, you make it your own.
If you're running a module, I will say you want to try to stick to rules as written, because the modules were written with the intent of rules as written in mind. If you're not running modules and you're running your homebrew stuff, make it up. Write it down. Keep note of it, but make it up.
I really disagree with that. I want to be able to have a game to where, yeah, I could pick up a 3rd edition or 5th edition module. I don't care, but I'm going to run it for my own system, which uses a completely different die than the D20. I use a D100, which is times 5 for most things, but my system's going to have an element of to where you can make rulings, and it revives you or it reminds you about rulings are better than 70 pages of new rules in a hardcover, because you really don't want to have 50 hardcovers for a game system. As much as I look at the Jovian Chronicles, I don't want to play it. Sorry there, Kai.
No, it's okay.
It's all right, but I will let you run us through a Dune RPG.
Ooh, I would do it, but
I'd
no.
consider playing that.
I'd be interested in playing it, and I know probably the least about the Dune world than the rest of these guys.
That's okay. If you know nothing going into it, you'll enjoy it more.
That's totally how it is.
Because at that point, you come with no preconceptions, and if I screw up the volumes and novels of lore, you won't notice, and it'll be more fun when you decide to go, I'm going to shoot this guy over here. That's the guy who eventually founds the entire. I shoot him, and everyone else. You couldn't have killed him. He was an important plot character. He's dead now. Oh shit! Now I'm that character. God damn it!
I've joked around on here with, but it even goes to legacy games. I've ran when I did Pathfinder, my Pathfinder version of Dresden Files. Granted, I had to change a lot of things around, but they went from Stormfront to, I want to say, Summer's Night before the game. It just, once again, everybody moved, but it was one game that continued from each novel. And it lasted about 4 or 5 years. And it was fun. They had fun, and it's not exactly a legacy game, but it was in the pretense that there was a continuation of the story.
When you're running a game for 5 years, it better have something.
It had a lot of beer and cigars and headaches.
I'm going to wrap this up here. Jade, are you going to be putting anything on the new YouTubes here in the next 7 days or so?
No, I don't really have a channel. I haven't really thought up anything for a channel. I don't know if anyone would be interested in my stream of consciousness.
I think somebody probably would.
I'd watch it, but
I'll keep it in the back burner. I still do work a 5-day-a-week job.
I understand that. Kai, I know you're strapped on time, man.
And I also got a funeral to go to this weekend, so I might not be able to put anything out, but I'll try to squeeze something in.
If you do, you do. And I'll consider it a blessing, okay?
Yeah.
Connell.
Yeah, I know I promised for something today. I've been having technical issues. I thought I loaded it when I realized I didn't load it. But on a caveat thought, as soon as I get one more of my players on my Monday campaign, my content will be my Monday shenanigans.
Okay.
And which will not be for the light of heart. And if you get offended easily, don't watch.
Fair enough. And for me, I've been looking for time to do things, but my job has robbed me of a lot of my activity time. Garrett was thinking I fell asleep earlier, and I heard something from Kai, and I just dropped my damn mini holder. I'm sorry, but I'll be trying to finish Elijah's story, so you guys will have a full playlist to read. If you're a long haul trucker, I'll give you something.
Yeah.
And looking forward to doing this again tomorrow night. We're going to be hanging out with our friends at Legion of Myth and their Friday night chill stream. You might see a thing pop up on the interwebs from Connell, so keep your ears open. My directive to Connell, my friendly urging is we have Baron G-Rock in our chat, and he might be able to help you. He might be able to get you to where you have
it might just be a laptop issue, not so much of I'm an idiot issue, I'm hoping. Or it might just be an I'm an idiot issue.
Yeah, we never know. And until we can have a professional look at this, let's not assume the worst. Let's just think it's just a momentary issue.
5% Real Connell.
You know,
Sorry.
For everybody in the chat, really appreciate you guys stopping by tonight.
Yes, thank you.
We are nothing without our chatters. Okay, without the people talking about us. If you guys retweet the stream out there, if you repeat it, if you go share it, if you like, if you subscribe, if you want to hear more of us, that's great. We want to hear from you. And if you thought we suck, we take the criticism honestly. It's fine. I don't mind that because that's the only way a person gets better.
Constructive criticism.
So if you guys, if you want to hear more of this, we're going to repeat this. We're going to not repeat this. We're going to try to actually evolve from here on this same conversation thread. And if we have a mid-course breakdown on this, I'm sure there's other conversation threads that are out there that we would love to tear into, because all I've got to do really is just give Kai some caffeine, and all of a sudden I have, oh shit, I'm late. I got to press record, put it live, make it live. And that's exactly what happened. Baron G-Rock has been doing the work on the back end, and he really has a nice little channel popping up. He just hit 100 subscribers, and I would like every one of you guys to share his channel out there. He's also putting this exact thing into a podcast format. So if
this is going to be the worst opening possible for this episode. It's just going to be the Spotify playlist goes, well, and tune in for next episode, and angry ranting starts. I'm so sorry. We didn't even say episode name or number on this one. I'm sorry.
I'm perfectly fine with it. I think it worked out great. Helsinti Calvinani, Baron G-Rock, Legion of Myth, Biggest Geekus, Shadzar, Toxic Man Flu, and all the others that I can't remember. I apologize. But you stopped in. Lovely Sherry, thank you so much for stopping in, and we will discuss things with you later next week, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. In the meantime,